So why are Alexandria and I here in Las Vegas, and we're heading to Colorado, and we're heading to Arizona? We are doing that because this country faces enormous crises, and how we respond to these crises today will impact not only our lives, but the lives of our kids, future generations, and in terms of climate change, the very well-being of the planet. And so today we are here to say very loudly and clearly, no, we will not accept an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires run the government. No, we will not accept an authoritarian form of society with a president who undermines the Constitution every day and is working aggressively to take away our freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. No, we will not accept a society of massive economic inequalities where the very rich are becoming much richer while working families across the country struggle to put food on the table. What we're saying today as clearly as we can, that in the richest country in the history of the world, we demand and will achieve an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. It seems to me that before we can effectively determine the best way forward, it's important to do what is very rarely done in Congress or in the corporate media, and that is to have a frank discussion about the economic and political realities facing our country. So let's do something really radical. You ready? Let's tell the truth. In our country today, we have two very different Americas. In one of those Americas, the wealthiest people have never, ever in the history of our country had it so good. People on top are doing extraordinarily well today. We have more income and wealth inequality in our country than we have ever had. The three wealthiest people in America, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Zuckerberg. You know those guys. Those three people alone own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. Eat the rock! Three people, 170 million people. The top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. And CEOs of major corporations now make 300 times what their average workers make. But it's not just income and wealth inequality. Today we have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had. While the profits on Wall Street and corporate America saw a handful of giant corporations dominate sector after sector, whether it's agriculture, transportation, media, financial services, small number of very, very large international corporations dominate. and they charge us outrageously high prices for the products they sell us. If you could believe it, three Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, combined are the major stockholders of 95% of American corporations. And let me say this, the 1% live completely and isolated lives from the rest of this country. They have no clue what is going on in the real world. They live in their mansions and their gated communities. They fly around the world in the private jets or the helicopters that they own. They have well-trained nannies taking care of their babies. They send their kids to the best private schools and colleges. Sometimes they take vacations, not in a Motel 6, not in a national park, but in their very own islands that they own. And for the very, very richest, they have fluff, they have fun flying off into outer space on their very own spaceships. And maybe they should stay there. That is one America. An America where people live with tremendous wealth and tremendous luxury. They have it all. But there is another America, the America that you know and the America you live in. And in that America, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, and millions of workers are trying to get by on starvation wages. Unlike Donald Trump, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, and I know, as you know, something about that reality. And it is a reality that I will never forget. And I have a feeling as I look out at you today that many of you know that reality. Now here's something that we don't talk about too much. What does it mean? What does it mean to live paycheck to paycheck? Tell me. What does it mean? Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Oh, raise your hand. Let me get to some people. Yes. Going without. Yes.
No health insurance.
Knowing how to figure out how to pay your credit card when interest rates are 20% if you're delinquent, right? Yes, ma'am. How to put one's kids through college. Yes. Wanting to buy a house. How are you going to ever figure that one out? Yes, sir. Paying whether or not you're going to buy your prescription drugs or do you pay your rent. Yes, sir. Going hungry in America. Way in the back there, yeah. Wanting to go to college, not having the money to do that, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Okay, stress every day to pay the rent. That's what it's about. All right, we can go, look, I know we can go at everybody in the thousands here who will give me a different answer, but here is the bottom line. It means that millions of Americans worry every day, we just heard it, how they're going to pay their rent or how they're going to pay their mortgage. And as Alexandria mentioned a moment ago, all over this country, the cost of housing is soaring. So what do you do if you're living paycheck to paycheck and your landlord raises your rent 30%? You got to figure out where you're going to go. If you have a kid, you got to find another school. It is a disaster. How do you live if you're a single mom paying $20,000 a year for child care when you're making $40,000 or $50,000 a year? People want to feed their kids well, want decent food for their kids. How do you provide decent food for kids when the prices at the grocery store are soaring? If you get sick, your kid gets sick, your mom or your dad gets sick, how do you afford to go to the doctor if you have no health insurance or you have a $10,000 a year deductible? How do you pay your credit card bill? People have credit card bills here? And if you don't pay it, Wall Street gets 20%, 30% interest rates. People all over this country just worry about what happens if you're living paycheck to paycheck and your car breaks down. And the guy at the repair shop says it's costing $1,000 to get it fixed. Well, what happens if you don't have that $1,000? How do you get to work? And what happens if you don't get to work? What happens if you get fired? How are you going to take care of your families? Those are the stresses that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing. Let me tell you something that is almost never, ever talked about. In America today, our life expectancy, how long we live on average, is about 4 years shorter than people in most other wealthy countries. But what is even more embarrassing is that working class Americans are living 7 years shorter lives than the wealthy. Why is that?